Hey, I'm Charlie. I'm a horror screenwriter, and I strongly believe that horror movies, like all of us, deserve love. Not just your blockbusters, not just your franchises, not just your fancy A24 prestige desserts. Here are 4 low-budget indie horror movies that I believe are criminally underwatched and underdiscussed. I know firsthand how much work and love goes into these films, and I would like to see these movies get more attention. Starting with Lace Crater. Probably the most obscure and low-budget movie on this list. Lace Crater is a muted, heartbreaking walk through the deterioration of one woman's mind and body as she suffers otherworldly consequences due to her having a one-night stand with a ghost. Written with an ear for idiosyncratic, almost mumblecore dialogue, and scored with a soundtrack that I can only describe as Adventure Time-ass, Lace Crater takes on many of the same themes and aesthetic qualities as the much better known It Follows, which came out around the same time. But where It Follows chose to demonstrate the importance of community and relationships and friendships when coping with a sexual trauma, Lace Crater takes a much more dour look at what happens when something happens to you and you look into the faces of your family and friends and you see disgust instead of sympathy. This movie is pretty scary and brutal when it needs to be, but it also holds back and lets its horror mostly come through in the little moments. The look in the main character's eyes as she realizes that her body has started to betray her. The way her friend goes from being so friendly to her at the beginning to robotically discompassionate. The unfairness of being physically and socially punished for something that no one should ever be punished for. Next movie, Downrange. This movie is straight up mean. A group of strangers decides to carpool together across a California desert, and they become stranded on a desolate stretch of road. Then, one by one, they start to get picked off by a sniper who has decided for no apparent reason to hole up somewhere in the desert and kill anybody who comes across his path. This is pure survival horror. Blood and brains on the asphalt. The roiling tension of crouching behind a minivan and trying to suss out where this gunman even is. The smartest choice this movie makes is to have the rifle equipped, I assume, with some kind of silencer. So you don't get any warning, no loud gun sounds, no jump scares, just the silent of death. This movie has no interest in sentimentality or reason. As they might say on TikTok, it's just not that deep. I don't know if I got that right. Downrange does not care why the gunman is doing what he's doing. It doesn't care that much about the backstories of these characters. Every second of the film, right up to its horrifying final moments, is just coated in this black, nihilistic tar, and I love it for that. Next movie, Cerdita. Cerdita is a really emotionally complicated movie that is very hard to watch. And I don't mean the elements of gore and body horror, which are uniformly and uncomplicatedly sick as hell. No, the part of Cerdita that is the hardest to watch is the beginning. The movie takes place in a small Spanish town, where a fat teenage girl is relentlessly bullied by her peers and pervasively shamed by her mother for her weight. That's where we get the title of the movie, Cerdita, Piggy. So there's a scene early on in the film where she is almost drowned at a local pool by her bullies that is genuinely more gut-churning than any movie in the Saw franchise. She's then forced by these bullies to walk home down a hot country road in just her bikini. A group of older boys drive up, honking at her, catcalling, harassing, even untying her bikini top. The cruelty and dehumanization on display is unconscionable and disgusting. And it is rendered with shots that are so beautifully framed and so affecting. The director of this movie is just dangerously brilliant, which is how this movie almost pulls off its greatest trick, which I can't get into too much without pretty big spoilers. All I will say is that our protagonist becomes complicit in some pretty horrible crimes, and due to the framing of the movie, we are almost able to fully sympathize with her plight and understand her motivations. I don't think the movie does this perfectly, but I think it is still absolutely worth watching and digesting. To her family and her peers, she's a pig. But to us, to the audience, she becomes heartbreakingly, fallibly human. Last movie, Under the Shadow. Under the Shadow opens in 1980s Tehran during the Iraq-Iran War. A young woman, a mother of a young girl and the wife of a prominent doctor, is being denied permission to return to medical school after her political activism in her youth got her into trouble. As they talk outside the window, an explosion sends a billow of smoke into the air, but neither the woman nor the university official seem remotely fazed. They just keep talking. This is mundane to them. And that really is what is so compelling about this movie. As its title would suggest, it takes place under a shadow, under the shadow of war, of death, and of theocracy. This is just the reality that this family lives within. Our protagonist casually asks her husband to re-tape up the windows for the inevitable point in the future when they shatter. She spends her days working out in front of bootleg Jane Fonda videos while her husband lives out the career that she is being denied. When a handyman knocks at their door, she quickly hides the tapes and forbids her daughter from mentioning the contraband VCR. None of this is important to the plot of the film exactly, but it lends texture and context for its cultural setting. It's the epitome of showing without telling. The movie immerses you in the banality of violence and suppression. Stripped of that cultural context, the movie is pretty straightforward and it adheres to all of the genre conventions of the supernatural haunting genre. Spooky nightmares, weird naked apparitions in the house, creepy dolls, more nightmares. But this complete faithfulness to genre conventions in the movie is a feature, not a bug. A haunting movie is at its heart a movie about disempowerment, about forces beyond your control, about the fear that just when you need them the most, your senses will fail you and you will be unable to protect yourself and the ones that you love. And as darkness descends on Tehran and only mother and child are left alone in this shattered apartment building, they only have each other and their own senses to cling to in the face of evil, both supernatural and human. Will that be enough? Will they be able to survive? That's what you can find out if you go and watch the movie. So yeah, those are my picks for indie horror films that I feel like need a little bit more love, you know? More eyeballs watching them, more mouths talking about them. And if you like these movies, chances are you will be a fan of the movie that I wrote, which was greatly inspired by quite a few of them. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe to our channel, engage with this video, maybe check out the teaser for my horror movie and our other videos on the channel. And I'm just being reminded that we also have a Patreon. So if you want to support independent queer artists trying to make their mark in the world, maybe go ahead and check that out. All of the links are in the description of the video. Thank you so much, and have a spooky day.
Love it when you just stick a landing.
yeah, me too. I was like, I don't need to write an ending to this script. I obviously will know what to say at the end, clearly. So yeah, this worked out great. No reshoots needed.